Predicting Chesapeake Bay dead zones. Now, what are dead zones, and why are they a problem? Dead zones are bodies of water that are in a state of severe hypoxia. Hypo, meaning low, and oxia means presence of oxygen. Most marine organisms require certain levels of dissolved oxygen in the water in order to survive. When oxygen levels reach a point of anoxia, little to no oxygen, they start to suffocate. Now, why does this happen? There are many factors that cause dead zones, but the main cause is eutrophication. Eu, meaning well, and trophic, meaning nourished. Eutrophication is the process in which an excess of nutrients is introduced into a body of water, usually caused by various sources of runoff. Now, why is more nutrients bad? More nutrients means more nourishment for the organisms. Yes, and that's precisely the problem, because this enables blooms of harmful algae to overgrow. These blooms have a variety of harmful effects, but the one we are focusing on is what happens when they die. When algae die, they consume massive amounts of oxygen in their decomposition process, which causes these levels of hypoxia to eventual anoxia, and thereby the very large dead zones in certain bodies of water. Now that we know what dead zones are and what causes them, is there any way that we can predict them or maybe combat them? Let's see what we can do with machine learning.
In order to accomplish our goal of predicting dead zones in the Chesapeake Bay, we selected a few models to train with our data. The first is a linear regression model, which we use to calculate an RMSE value of 0.2255 between our validation set and our predicted set found from our model. We also used a decision tree regressor as well as a random forest regressor, which we found RMSE values of 0.1796 and 0.1171 respectively. In addition to these mentioned ML models, we also trained a neural network using Kira's sequential model. This training resulted in an RMSE value of 0.3066 throughout 30 epochs. Although it is surprising that this value is so high given a neural network's usual accuracy, this error could be greatly reduced through the fine-tuning of our model. Next, we'll delve into some possible uses of our constructed models.
So now we got the idea of what we can actually do with our results. So based on our models, we were able to accurately predict salinity levels, as well as be able to identify potential dead zone areas within the Chesapeake Bay. This information would prove to be useful for fishermen, as they would know which areas to avoid based on our metrics. And this is the case because venturing out into dead zones for fishermen would only prove to be a waste of time, since they wouldn't really be able to yield anything anyways. And this also helps us to locate areas that are especially in need of management. And what I mean by that is, for instance, if an area has a dead zone and it is near some crops, the problem is likely with the fertilizer that they're using for the crops or some sort of waste management near the farm or any sort of plot that they're putting the crops in. And so with that information, we would be able to make some proper changes that would ideally increase permanently the oxygen levels. And this model could also be used to be applied to areas outside of the Chesapeake Bay. If there are other bodies of water dealing with low oxygen levels, our model could help with knowing which areas to avoid and what areas to focus on improving.